What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to the vlog. It's the Irishman Poker. We're back here with another vlog from our time at Hustler at the $1 Million game. It's a 2-3 meetup game. We were in the game for $1,000. And kicking off the first hand, we have a double board PLO bomb pot. We were doing $10 double board PLO bomb pots, every dealer change. Bear in mind, I don't really know how to play PLO in the first place, playing with two boards. So this can definitely get very punty. The action gets kind of wild. We look down at the ace-9-6-4 with 3 hearts. Not a great hand in PLO. So how the game works is there's 2 flops, 2 turns, 2 rivers, and it's a split pot game. Winner of the top half wins half the pot. Winner of the bottom half wins the bottom. And if you win both halves, you scoop. So the first board comes out Queen 6-10 with 2 diamonds. So we have bottom pair on the top board, and the bottom board comes out 5-3-9 rainbow. So we have an open ender on the bottom board. There's 90 in the middle and the cutoff. It checks to the cutoff who bets 20. I think probably not folding, getting this price, but given that we're probably dead on the top, I think the more I played PLO double board bomb pots throughout the weekend, I realised I think this is just a fold. But me not knowing much about the game, I end up making the call. Hijack makes the call and we go 3 ways to the turn. Turn on the top comes the 7 of spades, and on the bottom it comes the deuce of clubs. So we make the nuts on the bottom board. It does bring in a flush draw. It checks to us now, and here's where I think I made another mistake. I decide to bet. I think given that we're drawn dead essentially on the top board, we've no way of winning. So we can only ever win half this pot. There is a flush draw on the bottom board, and we don't have a redraw, which in PLO generally you need a redraw to put tons of money in the pot. So I think coming from no limit hold'em, I just said, I have the nuts on the bottom, I need to stick some money in here. So I fire out a bet of 75. The hijack calls, and then the cutoff pots all in for 325. Now we have a decision. When we're calling here, we can only ever win half the board, and if he has us beat on top and a strong draw on the bottom, we're in really bad shape. But me not knowing much about the game, I decide to repot all in. The cutoff has about 400 in a stack behind, and he decides to come along. So now we have a massive 3-way all in. This is the carnage that happens in these double board PLO bomb pots. 3 of us are all in here. There's a small side pot between me and the cutoff. Dealer finds out jack of diamonds on the top board and the 9 of clubs on the bottom board. So now there's a flush draw and a possible full house on the bottom board. This is probably the worst card in the deck. We now don't beat any of the sets on the bottom or the flush draws. The player in the cutoff turns over at 10-7-7-4 with 2 clubs to scoop everyone. Hijack just mucks his hand, so we don't know what he ended up having, but the player scoops the top board with a set and the bottom board with a flush. So I think we probably butchered this hand. I definitely don't play PLO, so I don't know the correct strategy. I know you generally need the nuts and a redraw. I think putting all our money in with only a chance of winning the bottom board. So the guy was essentially free rolling us. He has us dead on the top and just gets a free chance to scoop the entire pot on the bottom. This is definitely not good. I think in future in these PLO bomb pots, I think we probably only want to put all the money in if we have like 1 board locked and a good draw on the bottom, or we have 2 monster draws. I think putting the money in, we always are going to want to have a chance to scoop both boards. So definitely a learning curve. I think these are really fun though. They cause a lot of carnage, a lot of chaos, a lot of 3- and 4-way all-ins. They're definitely fun to play, but definitely something I think we need to do a bit more PLO study before we go blasting on the double board PLO bomb pots in future. So right off the bat, losing a good chunk of our stack there, always not ideal. Shortly after, we moved tables to another one of the meetup games. There was a couple of Max Payne Monday legends in the game, Margot and Sia the bot, so we wanted to play with them. We jump in, and one of the first hands, we look down a Queen 10 of hearts on the button. There's a straddle under the gun. A player in early position makes it 25. There's a call in middle position. We're going to peel here on the button with the Queen 10 of hearts. Margot's in the small blind, and she decides to 3-bet to $80. The original raiser folds, and the caller folds, and now it gets back to us. It's 55 more to call. There's nearly 150 in the middle. We're getting almost 3-1 here. We're going to be in position on the button, so I think this makes a reasonable hand to call. We make the call and we go heads up to a flop of 10-9-5 all clubs. So we flop top pair here. We don't have a club in our hand. This is a dangerous enough board, but I think with top pair here, when she continues with a C bet of 75, I think we're going to have to call at least one. We're ahead of some ace-king, ace-queen, king-queen type hands, and she's going to be betting a lot of them if they contain a club. So I think we definitely want to peel here and see a turn. Turn comes down an offsuit 7. She checks on over to us, and now we have a decision between checking and betting. I think it's close. I think given that we've no club, there's definitely some hands that could check that beat us, some better 10s, maybe jacks, queens sometimes check, given that there's 3 clubs out there, especially if they have a club. We've enough showdown, and if we bet and get check raised, that would suck. So I decide to check back. River now comes an offsuit king, pretty bad card now. Some of her flop bluffs now beat us, hands like ace king, king queen. She checks on over to us again, and I think now we're just going to take our showdown. I don't think we're going to bluff any king off their hand, or even a hand like queens and jacks with a club. Probably don't fold unless we jam, and I don't really like jamming here without a club in our hands, so I decide to just check it back, take our showdown. We check back and she turns over queens with a club, so we lose. I don't think that's a hand we would get to fold on the river unless we go for maybe a jam, a big overbet jam, but even at that I think that would be kind of punty. We do have some showdowns, so I don't think we could have played it too different. There's a limp in the hijack and the cut-off raises to 15. We look down at king 4 clubs in the big blind. Think it's slightly loose, but we're going to make the call. Hijack calls as well, and we go 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes down king jack 9 with 2 spades and 1 heart. So we flopped a very weak top pair here. We check, the original raiser checks, and the limper checks. So interesting that both players check through. I think any strong hands on such a wet dynamic board like this are gonna bet. I don't think anyone's checking any of their strong king X here, any like hands like aces, king jack, king queen. All these hands are gonna bet with the flush draws and the straight draws out there. Turn now comes the 4 hearts, gives us 2 pair. Happy days, we're loving this spot now. We're gonna go with a bet here. There's certainly some draws and stuff we can get called by, some jack X, so we fire out a bet of $65, and to our surprise, both players call. River now comes the 8 of diamonds. We're going to continue going for value here. I don't think we need to be worried about too many worse or too many better 2 pairs, unless they just have a random hand like king 8, which is unlikely. Given that both players check the flop, I think they're pretty capped here. They shouldn't have too many of the strongest hands. Yes, queen 10 is a straight, but I also think that bets the flop, so I think we can eliminate those hands. I don't think players check enough of their strong hands on these really wet boards, so I think we can comfortably value bet here, and then if we get raised, our 2 pairs is probably not good. I don't think we will face a lot of bluff raises here. I can certainly have straights, I can have sets, I can have 2 pairs, so I don't think anyone's going to try bluff me off a hand as strong as I'm repping. So we fire out a bet of $130. The original limper makes the call, raiser makes the fold, we turn over a hand and it's a winner, so nice to scoop a decent pot there. There's a raise to 15 in early position. We look down at the ducks on the button, we make the call, small blind makes the call, so we end up going to the flop 5 ways here with probably the easiest hand to play in poker. Flop a set, win a big pot. If you don't, easy fold. Hoping for a nice flop here, and it comes down on absolute gin when it comes king 6-2 rainbow. We flop bottom set here. Flop checks to me, and I think with 75 in the middle, we can definitely check and hope some people pick up some turn cards that they're going to continue with in the turn. But given that there's 5 players here, I think going with a really small bet here should get called in 1, hopefully 2 spots. We fire out a small bet of $15. Hijack clicks it to 30, so that's pretty interesting there. He goes for the main click. Cutoff makes the call, and now we're obviously doing nothing but calling. If these guys are bluffing, we want them to continue bluffing. If they have a king, we're going to get more money off them anyway, so we make the call and head 3 ways to the turn. Turn now comes another king. Very good card. We're hoping one of these 2 guys has a king. We now make a full house. We're hoping the cooler one of them, but unfortunately for us, it checks to us. We fire out a bet of $125. The first player called the original min clicker on the flop, and the other guy gets out of the way. Heads up to the river, and it comes an ace. We do now lose, obviously, to ace king, but no reason to not put him all in when he checks to us. He only has about 150 behind. We jam all in, and he pretty quickly makes the call. I turn over a hand. It's the winner. He shows a king. Unlucky lad. GG. Nice to be on the right side of a cooler there for once. Feels like lately we're constantly on the wrong side of all the coolers. So nice to get that pot through. We're on our way back to even. We look down at big slick in the big blind. The cutoff raises to 15 on the small blind flats. Very powerful hand here. We're going to want to re-raise. We're going to want to go a bit of a bigger size here. We're going to be out of position. We make it $70. The cutoff folds, and the small blind decides he wants to come along. Pretty good situation for us here because we're going to be in position versus the small blind player. Flop comes down, queen, 5, jack with 2 hearts. We do have the ace of hearts. So we've 2 overs here, a good shot to the nut straight and a backdoor flush draw. And we're going to have a massive range advantage on this board. We have the aces, kings, ace, queens, all these hands that he can't have because he would have 3-bet them in the small blind. So given we've such a range advantage, this is such a good board for us. We're going to continue with a c-bet. We fire out a small c-bet of $50 and he makes the call. Turn now comes the 4 of hearts, giving us the nut flush draw to go with our hand. He checks it on over to us again, and I look at a stack C, has about 250 behind. Think we're going to want to jam here. We can put max pressure on hands just like ace jack and king jack. Even a queen is not going to be loving life. We've so much good hands here, we're going to be jamming. So this makes a nice hand to semi-bluff. We do have outs. Even if he has a flush, we have a redraw to the nut flush. If he just has a hand like a queen, we can hit an ace, we can hit a king, we can hit a 10, we can hit a heart. So given we've so many outs here, we decide we're going to put them all in for its last 250. That sends him into the tank. Eventually he says he doesn't think he can fold. He makes the call and turns over king, queen off. So our king is dead, but we're going to run it here with 1 card to come. There's lots of cards we can hit. We can hit any heart, get a 10 and ace. We're hoping to see one of these cards fall. Dealer fans out the river. It's an offsuit 4, so we don't hit and lose a big one there. Unfortunate, I think. If he had a hand worse than king queen, we probably get the fold. I think it's just a bit too good of a hand to fold. Once he calls the flop, he probably can't fold the turn. When he flops top pair there in the 3-bet pot, I can have hands like I have and be bluffing with them. So don't think he can do much, don't think I can do much, but blast the turn and put him in. Unfortunately for us, the dealer didn't give us one of our outs on the river, and we lose back all the money we made the last few hands to try get back to even. Also, shout out our opponent in this hand. He was a legend of a guy. He said he wanted his face on the vlog if he doubled up to me or I stacked him. So big shout out to him. Nice hand, fella. In this hand, we play a pot with another legend who said he wanted to be in the vlog. This man basically played 100% VPip. He was in there bluffing, playing every hand, blasting off. Really fun, nice guy to play against. He limps in early position, middle position limps, and the button makes it 10. We look down at pocket aces, best hand in poker in the small blind. We're going to raise this one up here. We make it $50 to go. Legend in early position makes the call. Middle position folds and the button makes the call. So there's a very good situation here. We're going 3 ways to a flop. We have the best hand in poker. Comes down a very decent one. It comes king 9-7 rainbow. So with the overpair here, we're going to continue going for value. We're going to be betting a lot of our hands for a small sizing on this flop. We fire out a c-bet of $60. Early position makes the call and the button makes the call. So heading 3 ways still here to the turn. We're hoping both these guys have kings. Turn now comes the 3 of diamonds, absolute blank. We have a decision here, do we want to keep betting? And I decide on a check for a couple of reasons. I think the player in early position, if he has a king, he's just going to go bet on the turn and river anyways. And if he has a hand like jack 10 or queen 10, hands that have straight draws, he might fold to a big turn barrel. But I think if we check, he will start to bet these hands as bluffs. So given that, I think he'll bet his king X anyways, as well as call them, but fold his bluffs. If I bet, I think we're going to go with a check here. We check the turn, and he fires out a bet of $100. Button gets out of the way, and we have the easiest call of our lives here with pocket aces, hoping that he's value owning himself, hoping that he's bluffing. We make the call and we see the brickiest river of all time. It comes to 2 of hearts. We check it on over to him again, and he puts us all in for our last 300 or so. We're going to be snap calling this here. We don't lose to too many hands, maybe 9s, 7s, king 9, but we also win versus all his king X and beat all his bluffs. So we make the snap call, and unfortunately for us, he turns over pocket 9s for a flop set. We told him we'd get him in the vlog as well if he stacked us, so going to give him a shout out here.
Come on, Dwan makes the call. $105,000 in the pot.
So that wraps up that session and our time at Hustler. We're into the game for $1,000, out for absolute zilch, unlucky few hands, and we absolutely dusted in the double board PLO. Great experience though, being down at Hustler for the $1 million game. You can actually see me there in the background of the Tom Dwan Doug big hand they played.
How did that gobshite get on the television?
View Tom Dwan, met a bunch of legends down there, so really enjoyed myself. Obviously on a poor run of form at the moment, hoping to get back to winning ways on a massive downswing, not just at the table, off the table, with our visa getting cancelled, so we miss out on our Vegas trip next week. But we're going to keep it positive, keep it locked here. We have plenty of sessions coming up. We're going to get back in the green, so keep it locked.